All right, everybody. Good Lord, that music is terrible. Every week I say it, and every week, well, here we are. Anyways, unhappy Wednesday, everyone. Coming to you live once again from my humble abode compound here. This is the Unhappy Gilmore Show, powered by Green Legion Radio and part of the Green Legion Radio family. We thank you, as always, for joining us tonight from wherever you may be and whatever service you're using to tune in. So please pull up a chair, turn up the volume, use the company dime if you're still stuck at work, and let's get wild as we put an end to day 3 of this week's hostage situation and look forward to tomorrow, Friday Eve. Lou Mancini already in the room. Yo, yo, yo. What's up, my brother? Going to kick the show off the way we do every week. If you're tuning in on Facebook or Twitter, please do not forget to like, follow, share, and subscribe the Green Legion. If those services are where you're comfortable, we totally get it, but the YouTube channel really is the best way to view or listen and comment on any Green Legion radio show. So please do us a solid. Go ahead over to YouTube, search the Green Legion, click subscribe, hit that little bell for your notifications, and share that everywhere as well for us. If you cannot catch our shows live, you can always watch or listen later on any of these services that we mentioned before, but also on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. So, where are we at here? Green Legion is going to invade Kansas City. We're still hoping that is the first Thursday night game of the season. Those trips are up. You can go ahead and get your deposit in now. I encourage everyone to do so. I'm pretty sure I'm putting my deposit in this weekend. So, and then we'll just hope that the date works out. The other thing is, you saw all of you who are subscribed to the Green Legion on social media or wherever else, you have seen and or undoubtedly heard that on Friday, March 10th, early bird deposits, early bird RSVPs will start being accepted for the remainder of the 2023 road trip season. And that's Los Angeles, that's Seattle, that's Tampa Bay, that's Dallas. I don't know about New England. And then obviously we play the Jets and the Giants in Washington. Those are usually bus trips. So not your full on Green Legion experience, but I'm sure it's still a hell of a time if you're there in Philadelphia and want to jump on something. So get ready for March 10th and hop on that Kansas City trip as soon as you can. If it's something you're waiting on. I don't believe in just knowing these guys and how they operate and how popular this whole thing is. I don't think you're going to be able to wait around until like August and then say, oh, I want to go to Kansas City. With the fact that it's being released this early, it's a Super Bowl rematch. We're all pissed off about the Super Bowl. I would venture to guess that if you want to get on this trip, I think it's probably a good idea to go ahead and get your deposit in now. As with any of these trips, If the schedule comes out and the dates do not work for you, you can shift your deposit to a different trip that does work for you, or ask for a full refund within, you got to do that within a couple of weeks though. Otherwise, the business has to roll on. So everybody jump on in. It's always a great time. There is not a better way to do an away trip. There's also no better home tailgate than a Green Legion tailgate. But certainly on the road, there really is not a better way to do it than to hop on with the Green Legion and enjoy that trip. So as far as Kansas City for us here, we will drive. It's a 9-hour drive from here. I'm not going to book airfare for that. That brings me to our group out here, the Midwest Eagles Nest, that I am very proud to be a part of. And my friend Mike and I, I think we're going to be back at the back porch again next week on Wednesday. So Mike will join me then. But we're both extraordinarily appreciative, thankful, proud of what we built, of what has been built this year, from just the two of us to, the kind of core group that we had. And then it expanded out to, a good 60, 65 people, I want to say, on Super Bowl. So been trying to encourage those folks to jump on the Kansas City bandwagon as well. Those of you, for anybody part of our Midwest Eagles Nest group that may be listening now or later, as I've stated in our posts in our Facebook group, if enough of us want to go, I can look into, I've already got some pricing on renting passenger van to drive us out there. So like I encouraged in my post in there, I think you need to jump on this as soon as you can, or you may miss your opportunity. Pretty sure our good friends John and Kevin have expressed interest in going. I'm hoping to hook up with those two guys this weekend. Maybe have them come over here to the house, grab a few beers, and hash out how the hell we're going to fit 3 dudes in a room and still, not end up sleeping in the same bed. Ick. Anyways, other things with the Midwest Eagles Nest. I'm hoping anyone part of that group who is listening and watching or whatever, that you're following the posts. We have an event on Saturday, April 15th. The Phillies are here against the Reds. I've already acquired 15 tickets to that game. They should all be together in the same row, lower level, section 131, up the first base line. And it's a few rows down from the concourse, but not so far down to where we're still under the second deck in case of any passing showers. It is April, so that's always a possibility. And I have the actual personal phone number of the lady I spoke to at the Reds ticket office. We can add more to that if we exceed 15. But I am not looking to call her with I want to add one. I want to add one. You guys talk, get together. We could add in increments of 5 or 4, for 2 couples or whatever, 6 for 3 couples. But I'd like to keep it to that. I don't want to take up too much of her time. The other thing we're trying to plan is looks like the popular decision for an NCAA tournament get together for us would be Saturday, March 18th for that second round, those second round games. That'll be a lot of games going on that afternoon. So I don't think sitting in our Eagles, our nest area there at the back porch is really the best idea. Kind of limited on TVs back there. But I do intend to talk to Mike and make sure that we can get some space reserved. If not, if we can't get space reserved there, then you look to move to another establishment, or we just move it out a week and figure it out from there. But that's what's going on with the Midwest Eagles Nest. Something for here at the house. So I think I forgot to mention before the Super Bowl, we had done our family cook-off round 4. And this time our my middle son, Liam, he participated too. So we had friends of ours come over, have dinner, enjoy the food, and also help vote for who would win. Everyone voted for my son, which I was very happy about. He did a really good job. He made barbecued pulled pork sliders, mac and cheese. What he did was he cooked a pork loin in the crock pot in Coca-Cola. Then he shredded it and added his barbecue sauce and had those on the slider buns, and then the macaroni and cheese. Michelle, my wife, what did she make? Oh, she made Mongolian beef with the white rice and broccoli. That came out really good. And I drew shellfish. I drew fish or shellfish this time. So I ended up with I made Maryland crab cakes and cornbread. So it was all around a really nice evening. And Liam won. So congrats again to my son. Forgot to mention that on here a few weeks back. We are going to do round 5 of our cook-off. I think the first weekend of the baseball season. And what we're going to do is we're going to do game day food, not just baseball food or just football food. Just like, if you're going to sit around and watch some ball games, what would you like to eat? If it's bratwurst, if it's hot dogs, nachos, sliders in some way, shape, or form, game day food, chili, whatever. So we're looking forward to that. And that's what's going on here. So let me jump over here. The room is jumping off again here. Already getting into the coordinators, Mancini. Yep, we're going to jump over to that in just a minute here. Lou, you wanted the date for the Phillies game again. It's Saturday, April 15th that we are doing our thing out here. Phillies at Reds. The cool part about it was, let me get your comment off of there. The cool part about it was when I asked for more information. I'm not Quimby. I'm not well-versed in group tickets and all that stuff. So go to the Reds website, click tickets, ask for more information on group. So who's your group leader? So I just put my name in, email address, cell phone number. But what they also asked for was the name of the group to be put up on the scoreboard when they make those announcements and thank the groups for coming in. So that should be a fun thing for us. It's it'd be Midwest Eagles Nest up there. And I don't know how much that lady's going to really be a fan of mine, knowing that she's selling all these tickets to a bunch of people going to show up wearing I'll be wearing Eagles green. I mean, I'm not a Phillies fan. I mean, I support you guys, but I'm not, I'm a Yankees fan. So, but I'll be wearing my bird stuff so everybody knows who I'm supporting. Where are we here? David Califoot. Yep. Second week. David Conant, the 15th. Exactly. Yep. And Lou Mancini. Are you still coming to Philadelphia this year? Yes. Yes, we are. And that should be Friday, July 14th through I think that's Monday, July 17th. 14th. Yeah. Through July 17th. And then it'll be a 1 day in Baltimore. And then we'll head on back. So a quick trip. I mean, and if we're able to get there early enough on Friday, we'll start sightseeing that day. And then maybe it's just Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then head to Baltimore Monday and drive back Tuesday. We'll kind of have to play that by ear. So I know a lot of you guys, you want to get together, you want to go have cheesesteaks and stuff, and I'm with you. I want to too. Just keep in mind, guys, I've got the entire family with me, all 3 kids. So time is going to be precious. I got to get them out to Independence Hall, the Liberty Bell, Betsy Ross House, all of the, obviously got to go see Rocky. They'll probably want to run up the stairs again. So, and I get it. That's a tourist thing. I understand. Keep in mind, my kids were born here and my wife is from here. So we're going to do all the touristy stuff. And then I've also, we're going to do the Phillies game and then, and that'll be it for Philly. I do intend to smash as many cheesesteaks as I possibly can while I'm in town, and I know my boys feel the same way. I just don't know as far as how much time in between all this stuff, but I'm sure we can make time and figure something out while we're there. I mean, even if it's only the 3 days that we're there, I'm sure we can make time to at least have lunch, enjoy some laughs and have a good time. So to answer your question, Lou, absolutely. We are the Gilmore Brigade will ride up to Philly July 14th through the 17th. Then we'll do Baltimore for 1 day and 1 day only. No other reason to be in Baltimore. And I think I've talked about it on here a number of times. Fort McHenry in the mid-morning. Crab cake lunch on the Inner Harbor. Babe Ruth birthplace and museum. Camden Yards for the Orioles game. and out we go. And likelihood is we'll end up, starting to drive back that evening and then just stay overnight and get up and finish it in the morning. It's about a 9-hour drive to Philly for us from here. And then, whatever traffic we may or may not hit. You don't know what you don't know until you get out there. So there's the update there. Now, let's get down to business. I know, who was it already? Lou Mancini already bringing up the side. So personnel changes in Philly. Obviously, I mean, the offensive coordinator situation was the worst kept secret, right? Why the hell they waited? I mean, waiting to announce them both at the same time or something. I don't get it, but whatever. Brian Johnson's the OC. And he was the obvious choice. We talked about this last week. We gave you his background, right? Worst kept secret in the league. The relationship with Jalen is obviously key. He's got a great track record of getting the most from a specific quarterback's skill set, right? Whether that was Dak Prescott at Mississippi State, Kyle Trask at Florida, or now Jalen Hurts with the Eagles. I know Steichen was the OC, but, Johnson's the guy who's been working more closely with him, obviously. One thing, and I keep forgetting to do this all the time. I have to remember to be better about this. I want to keep, if I don't do this in the first few minutes of the show, somebody remind me, please, to get this link up for anyone who would like to click on it and try to join. I know last week we had somebody try to join and I couldn't hear a word the person was saying. So anyways, to the defensive coordinator, which is the more interesting one at this point, Sean Desai. I will tell you, just like I told you last week, I was an advocate for Denard Wilson, our defensive backs coach. I'm not knocking Sean Desai. My thoughts were I liked keeping it in-house, familiarity with the brass and everything. But look, they go a different way. In Nick and in Howie we trust. So moving on, Sean Desai. I'm sure our brother Mike up there at the back porch, he was very much an advocate for going outside the organization with at least one of the coordinator spots. So congratulations, Mike. Got your wish. Sean Desai is going to be our defensive coordinator. So we can take a brief look at him. Lou Mancini, you commented that you're liking because he's a Fangio disciple. Okay, I was going to ask why. I didn't read the whole comment before. Hopefully he has more deception than Gannon. Very true, my brother. But so we go outside the Birds family, but not entirely outside of Philly, right? Because Desai is actually a Temple alum. So familiarity with the city. One season previously as a defensive coordinator, and that was with the 2021 Bears. All right. Now, look, I'm going to read you some numbers here, and a lot of them are, so they're unflattering. But when you consider the Bears and the mess that they've been for at least the last few years, you have to wonder if some of these unflattering numbers were at least in part due to lack of decent personnel, right? Lack of decent talent. So in that one season in 2021, 22nd in the league in points per game allowed at 23.9. Again, unflattering. However, 6th in the league in yards per game allowed. 3rd in the league in yards per game allowed passing, right? 191.6. Put that into perspective. We are, this past year, we were the best pass defense in the league. We averaged giving up 179 a game. This Bears defense in 2021 allowed 191. So just 12 yards more. They were 3rd in the league that year. They were also 4th in sacks with 49 that season. And it's also the season when Robert Quinn broke the Bears single season sack record with 18.5. So again, the points per game is unflattering. Is that somewhat due to maybe the offense being garbage and constantly putting the defense in bad spots, short fields? Do we have some lack of talent on the defensive side outside of Robert Quinn? The Bears have not been a good football team for a while now. So I don't really want to knock the coordinator when outside of the points per game, which unfortunately is the most important stat, everything else looked pretty good. Who do we got? John Brooks. There he is. Davis is taking over. Sorry, just joining. Hey, you and Kevin, if you guys want to get on over to my house this weekend, we can work it out for Saturday evening or something, and let's talk about Kansas City if that's something you still want to do. Hit me up after the show or text me or whatever, and we'll work it out. I sent a Facebook message to both of you. Group messages are, but it was the easiest way for me to just talk to both of you at the same time. Anyways, from 2013 to 2018, Sean Desai is the quality control coach. This is also with the Bears. I didn't look it up. Okay. And, I'd like for someone out here, John, I see your message. Dude, no worries. I totally get it. You're working all day. Got it. But so quality control coach, and you're seeing more and more of this, right? Gannon was a quality control coach at one point. Is there somebody a little bit more well-versed in what this position actually does? What in the hell is a quality control coach? I didn't look it up. I meant to, didn't really get the opportunity. To me, it kind of feels like it's a role created for a guy that maybe some organizations don't feel is ready to actually, take over a position group or be a coordinator or a head coach or an associate head coach or whatever. But it's a guy that they feel has promise. And so they want him included to get some training, to get some exposure, to see how they can make their mark in a more limited role. Anybody out there, please help. Just, tell me if I'm off base there, but that's the way that kind of feels. Russ Taylor, Jumanji, bitches. Russ Taylor, quality control is the role of Tommy Boy. Very good. Lou Mancini, I'm seeing the fact that Nick might have wrestled some sway as far as hiring assistants. Do you feel the same? I do. And I think Nick has earned that. I mean, we're a playoff team last year. Of course, we get mushed in the first round, but, then we're the number one seed this year, all the way to the Super Bowl. And we came within, a bad second half defensive scheme away from winning the Super Bowl. So I think Nick has completely earned, his input or whatever. It's his coaching staff, and as well it should be. Russ Taylor says quality control is bitch boy and floats from department to department. All right, so we're going to get off the quality control coach. But anyways, like I said, that's my stand. That's how I see the quality control coach, is that it's just a guy that they think has some promise, that is not, they don't feel is ready to take on, an actual leadership role over a position group or whatnot, but they want to kind of bring him along. David Conant, Dave, you're actually the person I was hoping was going to comment most. No offense to anybody else. They watch and analyze game film and prepare 2 to 3 weeks in advance of game day. There you go. So I'm not off base, right? I'm really not. They're kind of a secretary. They're a logistics analyst type of thing. So, okay. No, I'm glad I wasn't completely off base there. So he holds that role from 2013 to 2018. He's promoted to coaching safeties from 2019 to 2020. When he was affiliated with that group specifically, Chicago was top 10 in passing yards allowed every season. It's pretty good. And as Lou alluded to earlier, he is a Fangio disciple. I don't think they're, if you're going to look at a guy's resume and try to pick it apart and find something negative, being a Fangio disciple as a defensive coach is not ever a bad thing. So that, I'm with Lou on that. I like that a lot. He was not the defensive coordinator in Seattle, but he apparently did play a big role in the game plan as the associate head coach and defensive assistant. So these are all kind of weird jobs that exist in the NFL now, right? Everybody's analyzing analytics, much to what Dave alluded to earlier and what he's alluded to here. Yeah, so you agree. It's an entry level for coaching, which is pretty much exactly what I described before. So in Seattle, they were 13th in yards per game allowed. Not horrible, not stellar, but 13th. You're in the top half of the league. 211.5 a game. The points per game again, though, 25th at 23.6. So I just, the points per game kind of bothers me a little bit. And 26th in yards per game allowed at 361.7. That's the overall yards per game allowed. They were decent against the pass. Obviously, they were atrocious against the run. I guess my biggest question on Sean Desai, and I'd like to hear all of your feedback on this. Denard Wilson was in the running for this job and is currently our defensive backs coach. So now enter Sean Desai, who was in competition with Denard Wilson for this role. And from Desai's resume, it's pretty obvious that he's heavily involved in the defensive backs. So I'd like to see, what is your take on how, what do we see as far as these two working together? Sometimes, and you'd hope that they could be adults, but sometimes when two guys are up for the same position, the other guy gets it. Now, one has to work for the other. And especially in a situation like this where, Desai obviously likes to make his fingerprint on the defensive backs, which is an area where Denard has actually done incredibly well. Just take a look at CJ, GJ, Slay, and Bradbury last year. How do we think that kind of plays out between those two going into this season? Again, you'd hope they can be adults. But do you think there's going to be any animosity? Do you think Wilson's going to feel like this guy's kind of stepping on his toes if he comes in and starts messing with the secondary? Now, he's the defensive coordinator, so it's it should be his gig. I would like to, obviously, the best thing that happens is our defensive backs just get even better, right? Our secondary just gets even better. David Conant, I think it most likely depends on how Philly handled him not getting the role. And I agree. I totally agree with that. There's something that's, are you not ready yet? Resume here was a little bit better, a little bit more experience, that sort of thing. Lou Mancini, currently, I believe Wilson will feel slighted and maybe follow Gannon or elsewhere. If he stays, I believe he's all in. Okay. I think that's a fair stance as well. John Brooks, I think it's going to be a drag out. What, you mean like they're going to be at each other, like fighting with each other? Well, I mean, look, if that happens, somebody's getting one or the other or both of them are going to get fired. So that's not going to happen. I think the combination of what you see from Dave and Lou there is really more what I would expect. If the Eagles brass, and in particular, Nick Sirianni, how he handled the situation when they told Wilson, look, you're not the guy this time around. And coupled with, if Wilson decides to stay, he's all in, but there's the possibility he may want to explore other options. Don't forget, it's a long off season. I'd hate to lose him because our secondary was outstanding this past season. So John says they're going to be headbutting with each other. Man, why are you always trying to bring violence into this, dude? But so that's where we stand on the coordinators, right? I mean, we're just going to have to see with Desai. I mean, I think there's some good things in his resume. I think there's some questionable things in his resume. I think you could also point to those questionable things as maybe lack of decent personnel. But I'm not the type to really make excuses either. So, provided we can hang on to at least the core free agents on the defensive side of the ball, Namely, I'm speaking of, Bradbury and Gardner Johnson and maybe Hargrave. I know Sirianni wants him back, but that's going to be a big ticket, man. So we'll see what happens there. This time we'll just tell with the and see how it goes. All right, so that's our coordinators. From there, guys, I'd like to talk a little bit about the draft. You know what I didn't do? I skipped right over it because we got into the whole Midwest Eagles nest and family stuff and the trip to Philly. I meant to do the boner of the week right after that, and I missed it. But we're going to do it right now. So this to me was another simple one, y'all. I am 100% speaking to all of the Eagle fans, and I'm sure it's nobody in this room. Anyone out there, when we started trying to gear up this Midwest Eagles nest thing and advertising all over the place, I joined a bunch of Philadelphia Eagles Facebook groups. Don't get me wrong, it's not all bad, but there are some areas where it absolutely drives me up a wall. This is one of them. All of you on all those Facebook groups that are clamoring for Carson Wentz to come back as our backup quarterback, you all hold the title of the Unhappy Gilmore Boner of the Week. Okay? I mean, have all of you just lost your mind? Do you not remember what kind of a head case, arrogant, snot-nosed punk that kid was on his way out the door here? Do you not remember that the locker room was entirely divided? Do you not remember that he has played a role in 2 head coaches losing their jobs at this point? One being Doug Peterson, the other one being his buddy Frank Reich. Remember, Frank Reich stuck his neck out for Carson Wentz last season, and it backfired on him, and that is ultimately a huge reason why Frank Reich is now in Carolina. I cannot believe that there is a sane, intelligent Philadelphia Eagles fan out there who believes that Carson Wentz is the answer at backup quarterback. And all of you would be shocked and appalled by the number of posts that are out there supporting that very thing. I don't know what the hell is wrong with all of you. Look, we were all believers in Wentz at one point, right? 2017. From there on out, he regressed, okay? Now, the Eagles are part to blame for keeping Wentz and Foles on the roster after that Super Bowl victory. You should have traded Foles at that point because his stock was never going to be higher, whereas we had only scraped the surface of Carson Wentz's ability at that point. Okay? So in that aspect, the Eagles own the blame. However, everything else belongs to Carson Wentz. Okay, there were some injuries at the wide receiver spot in 2019 that didn't help. Got it. But the kid was reckless. That's what led to injuries. He at least partly, well, I guess maybe you could put him and the Eagles in some blame for rushing back from that knee injury. 9 months was not enough time. But the rest of it belongs to Wentz. He refused to change the way he was playing. Our good friend Hollis Thomas was all over that. And he was right. Wentz would go up to that podium. He'd say the same thing every time. I'm not going to change the way I play. And Hollis's response was what? Some bitch you better because you suck. You suck ass. That was it, right? That was the Hollis line for Carson Wentz, and he was dead on accurate. I supported Wentz far longer than I probably should have. But be that as it may, by the time he was traded away from Philadelphia, it was an absolute full-on disaster with that kid. The locker room, he had no respect from his teammates. He had destroyed any relationship with Doug Peterson. It ultimately played at least part of a role in Doug Peterson being let go. The kid is not a leader, and he hasn't been a winner since 2017. Okay? I am not bringing back a guy with the risk of some sort of freaking locker room cancer that he may bring with him. And all of you who are clamoring for it need to shut your goddamn mouth about it. You're dead wrong. Look elsewhere. Carson Wentz is washed. We need a backup quarterback who can run the RPO. Okay? It doesn't have to be, there's also idiots out there saying that we should have gone and tried to get Lamar Jackson because I guess they think that you can just turn the fucking salary cap off like you can in Madden NFL, the video game. We need a guy who can run the RPO, people. Okay. And guys, you all here in the room, I'm not talking to you on this. You all are way smarter than that. I know you don't want Wentz back. I'm talking to all of you folks out there in interweb land who have this idea that Wentz would be the answer. RPO is our offense. Okay. And when Jalen Hurts got hurt this year, Gardner Minshew was the backup. And like we've talked about here on this show numerous times, did you see the difference in the offense and the RPO? The running backs were getting killed because nobody was afraid of Minshew taking off and running. We do not need to have a superstar as our backup quarterback. We need a backup quarterback who is capable of running the RPO, someone whose legs you have to respect. Okay? That's what has to happen. Carson Wentz is not that guy. All right, now. There's your bonehead of the week, and you got a rant out of it, too. David Califoot bringing Johnny Manziel. Oh, my God. It goes from bad to worse. Russ Taylor. Wentz was upset he had to see the Foles-Peterson statue every day. I don't really care what he was upset about. You guys that are supposed to be elite, David Conant said, I was on the phone with Dave before the show. David Conant said it earlier when I was on the phone with him. Your elite quarterbacks, you guys that are supposed to be in that group, overcome shit like this. Okay? Marcus Mariota as a backup. I could see that. All right? Marcus Mariota, think Jacoby Brissett, guys like that that's what you're looking at. I don't need another guy come in here as our backup quarterback with cinder blocks for feet. Okay, we don't need that. John Brooks, Carson can kiss one. So John calls me yesterday. I pick up the phone and I just answered Carson Wentz support group. How can I help you? Keenan Harmon enters the room. Good evening, you crazy bastards. What the hell did I miss? Well, you missed my the boner of the week, which was everyone out in interweb land who's lost their mind thinking that Carson Wentz should be our backup quarterback, and the fact that you also got a rant out of it too. We talked a little bit about the new offensive and defensive coordinators, and now we're going to move on to the draft. All right, and I'm specifically, just for this week, guys and girls, just want to talk about that number 10 pick, okay? And if we don't trade down, which is a total possibility. You think about it. We have 2 first-rounders, a second, a third, and I think we don't pick again until 2 in the 7th. So at some point, you're going to see Howie make a deal to get more picks. And we just need – we're going to need more. He loves to make picks in the middle rounds. I'm a big fan of the way he handles it. So, but let's just take a look at some of these cases. I read a whole bunch of things over the last week or two. Some players that were, a lot of folks are thinking that we could take at that 10 spot if we don't trade back. But the first thing we're going to do while we're on the topic of dumbassery, we're going to get the dumbassery out of the way now for this pick. We are not drafting Bijan Robinson out of Texas at number 10. That's not going to happen. Okay? Califoot, I'll get to your Carson Wentz story in just a second, bud. So much like the Carson Wentz people out there, there are an equal number of idiots stating we should take Robinson at 10. I am not knocking Bijan Robinson for his talent, okay? I think he could be a stud. But we've discussed on this show, okay, at at length. And Quimby and I both talked on Right on Cue last summer. The birds tell you on a constant basis that they just do not place high round value on this position. Okay. Sanders in the second round was an outlier. This is not a spot where they invest a whole lot of money, where they invest high draft picks. It's just they believe that they can plug and play at this spot. They build from the trenches outward. Okay. So the offensive line does its job. We can have a running back by committee that is very effective, like we did this past season. So I would expect you to see more of that. Based on track record, if we need to draft a running back, which is totally possible. I mean, the idea that thinking that Miles Sanders is going to be an Eagle next year is it's probably not going to happen. But that means we're going to have to go get another one, okay? And it's very possible we do that in the draft. One guy I'd like you to keep your eye on is on that draft Saturday when we get to those middle rounds, is the TCU running back, Keandre Miller. All right, 6 foot, 225, had a monster year last year. Huge reason why TCU went as far as they did. So I would keep an eye on him on Saturday if we're looking for a running back. All right, that's a pick that is totally possible. Anyways, back to that number 10 spot. I know some of you guys are, well, you know what? I told Califoot. David Califoot says he's got a good story about Carson Wentz. My father celebrated his season ticket of the game on the Eagles-Giants Monday night game in 2019. I was in the tunnel when they were coming in and off the field. Kept calling him Nick Foles. He was so mad. I mean, and that's just it. I don't think Carson Wentz ever really embraced the city. I don't think he understood. He was, every chance he got, you'd see, and I followed him on like Instagram and Twitter. Every chance he got, he's back up in North Dakota. I don't blame him. His wife was pregnant. I got it. But like, I don't really ever feel like he did charitable things, but I don't know that he ever did more than, it just never really felt like after that 17 season that he ever really, the city, him and the city just didn't embrace each other. Right. And he brought a lot of that on himself. Anyways, Russ Taylor, the steal of the draft will be the team that steals Jalen Carter later in the draft. He'll be working to change his life. Russ, I'm not sure that Jalen Carter's dropping out of the top 10, but I think he's going to drop a couple spots, but these are misdemeanor charges. They're not felonies. So unless something horrible comes out and additional charges, Dave and I talked about this as well. Unless something really bad comes out of that, I don't think he's dropping very far. It puts Chicago in an even more enviable position, right? Chicago's got to trade back. They have too many holes, and I think they need to make an investment in Justin Fields. Put some talent around him, and let's see what this kid can do. That offense is a freaking disaster. So Chicago could, okay, now with this misdemeanor stuff about Carter, Chicago could trade back to just the number 2 spot with Houston and get some more draft capital. Then they could also trade down again to Indianapolis and get an abundance of draft capital. Both of those two teams need quarterbacks. And at that spot, they could still end up with all of that extra draft capital and draft Jalen Carter. Chicago's got a real opportunity to change their franchise around very, very quickly in this offseason. So they've also got $92 million in cap space, which means any free agents out there that can be a difference maker are going to be on their radar. And that's offense or defense. So don't be surprised, man. Look, if that GM up there does his job well, this is a Chicago team that could completely do a 180 very, very quickly. But back to us at the 10 spot. So I looked up a few guys that, that have been rumored talked about a lot. Really what you want, and we talked about this all last summer too, was you want the best available player at a position of need, right? And you rank your positions of need by, whatever you think that is. A lot of that will be determined by who we may or may not lose in free agency. So one guy is Peter Skoronski. He's an offensive tackle out of Northwestern. And what you will notice out of everybody that I'm reading off here, outside of one guy, they're all coming. Well, I mean, they're all coming from big time conferences. None of these are like reaching for anything. But anyways, Peter Skoronski, offensive tackle out of Northwestern, 6'4", 315 pounds. He was a 4-star and top 5 center prospect nationally at Maine South High School in Illinois. When Northwestern star left tackle Rashawn Slater opted out of the 2020 season, Skoronski, at the time a true freshman, stepped into that spot for all 9 games and earned second-team All-Big Ten Conference honors. Grandson of former Green Bay Packers team captain Bob Skoronski was a second-team pick in 2021 as well, starting all 12 games on the blind side. He was named the league's top offensive lineman and a first-team all-conference selection in 2022, again, starting all 12 contests at the left tackle spot. Left tackle, we have Jordan Mailata, so it's not like we need to, depth never hurts. But let's be honest. Lane Johnson's not getting any younger. He's having, he's another surgery during this offseason. He has had injury issues. I think he's just completed his 10th year to be going into the year 11. At some point, you do have to find his replacement. And this kid's played mostly left tackle, but you could shift him over to right tackle and see how he does. I like the Big Ten conference for offensive linemen like that. It's cold weather. It's not your speed and finesse type of conference. So another offensive tackle, Paris Johnson out of Ohio State. John, if you're still on here, I'm sure you're aware of this kid. Huge young man, 6'6", 310 pounds. Ohio State fought off a lot of schools to keep, he was a top 10 recruit in his home state after he was named the Anthony Munoz Offensive Lineman of the Year out of Princeton High School right here in Cincinnati. Played in 5 games as a reserve his true freshman season, including the national title game against Alabama. Johnson started at right guard in all 13 games of his sophomore season, garnering second-team All-Big Ten notice for his efforts. He moved to left tackle for 2022, playing well enough in 13 starts at his new spot to receive second-team AP All-American and first-team All-Big Ten accolades. Another stud out of the Big Ten as far as your offensive lineman. Russ Taylor, I want the best possible player, but I want the correct fit. There is a difference, fit in the locker room. I agree with you. Russ Taylor again, Lane Johnson, the bionic man. We can rebuild him faster, better, stronger, cue the music. Look, Lane's the best right tackle in football, man. He hasn't allowed a sack in over 2 calendar years. It's been going on 3 years going into the next season. So I mean, he's amazing, but he's not getting any younger, and his health has been a little up and down over his career. David Conant, I think too many teams try to pick best available player, forgetting about scheme and locker room fit, but let's be fair. The players drafted will likely outlast the coaching staffs. Also fair. And that's why, Dave, I don't just say best player available. I say best player available at a position of need. But I do think, you and Russ are on the same page there as far as the fit in the locker room, also incredibly important. All right. Another guy on the radar here. Oregon cornerback Christian Gonzalez, 6'2", 201. So think James Bradbury size. Okay. Big, long corner. I am not a huge fan of defensive players coming out of the Pac-12 or the Big 12, because really the ACC either. None of those conferences really know how to play defense. Let me address this real quick. David Califoot, would you want to try Fournette? And look, if he would take a really small deal with a lot of incentives that might raise his money, then maybe. But as far as just outright giving him a contract as a veteran, no. I'm not going to do that. Not when I can get value in the draft. Christian Gonzalez, cornerback out of Oregon, 6'2", 201. Again, think James Bradbury size. Gonzalez, 4-star recruit when he signed with Colorado out of the Colony High School in Texas, where he started on offense, defense, and special teams. Gonzalez started all 6 games of the Buffalo's 2020 season, had 25 tackles and 5 breakups, and all 12 contests in 2021, where he had 53 tackles, 5.5 for a loss, and 5 pass breakups, earning honorable mention all Pac-12 accolades. Quarterbacks coach Demetrius Martin moved from Colorado to Oregon after the season, and Gonzalez followed him, starring for the Ducks in 2022. He was a first-team all Pac-12 pick after leading Oregon with 4 interceptions and 7 pass breakups, posting 50 tackles and blocking a kick in his 12 starts. Gonzalez opted out of the team's bowl game. I am not a fan of that shit. You're leaving your brothers on the team hanging. I don't like it. His father, Hector, is a former UTEP basketball player who played semi-professionally in Columbia. Gonzalez's older sisters are former All-American track stars, Samantha and Melissa, who is married to NFL quarterback David Blah. Not that that matters, but just shows, a good pedigree of athleticism coming out of that family. Again, look, and I'm not trying to say the kid isn't good. I'm just, when you start talking defense, I don't think Pac-12. I don't think Big 12. I don't think ACC. I think SEC. I think Big 10. Those 2 conferences. But, look, this guy's obviously on the radar. When you look at a number of mock drafts, his name pops up quite often at this spot. Moving on. Brian Breesy, defensive lineman out of Clemson, 6'5", 305. That's a mountain of a defensive lineman. The nation's top recruit in the 2020 class was a 2-time first-team USA Today All-American at Damascus High School in Maryland. Oh, it's pronounced Breesy. Started 10 of 12 appearances in 2020 with 23 tackles, 6.5 for a loss, 4 sacks, and 2 pass breakups. He was a 3rd-team All-ACC pick in 2021, despite only starting the Tigers' first 4 games. 12 tackles, 3 for a loss, 1.5 sack, 1 pick, because of a torn ACL. Breesy was a 2nd-team All-ACC selection in 2022. 15 tackles, 5.5 for loss with 3.5 sacks, 2 pass breakups in 10 games, 7 starts. Breesy missed the Louisiana Tech game to be with his family after the death of his younger sister, who passed away from brain cancer at the age of 15. Later in the season, Breesy missed time due to a kidney infection. So, again, now we have a guy, ACC. I just mentioned the conferences I'm not a huge fan of as far as defensive players. Look, I get it. Clemson has become a factory of NFL talent, okay? But then you couple some injury problems with this kid. The ACL thing a couple of years ago, kidney infection this past year. Obviously terrible about his younger sister, only 15 years old, brain cancer. That's just absolutely awful. I don't know. I'd like to see the Birds go a different direction. I'd like it to go offensive line over defensive line. If we're going to look to the trenches at the 10 pick, I prefer the offensive line over the defensive line. That's just kind of where I stand. Now we move on to our Penn State boy, Joey Porter Jr., cornerback. We are. Again, another 6'2", 194. Okay, so again, this is a Bradbury-sized player. The son of former Steelers star Joey Porter was a first-team All-State pick at North Allegheny High School before appearing in 4 games in 2019, tallying 3 tackles, 1 pass breakup, and taking a red shirt. He got an honorable mention in all Big Ten honors in 2020, starting 8 games with 33 tackles, 2 for a loss, and 4 pass breakups. Porter was a third-team all-conference pick in 2021, starting all 13 games, tallying 51 tackles, 1 interception, and 4 pass breakups. He vaulted to second-team Associated Press All-American and first-team all-conference status in 2022, also winning the team's most valuable defensive player award. 27 tackles, 11 pass breakups in just 10 starts, despite missing 2 late season games with appendicitis. I guess you can kind of relate that to the kidney infection. Not really fair to judge one harshly and not the other. He did opt out of the Rose Bowl again, just like Gonzalez. I am not a fan of guys opting out of those bowl games. You know, I don't get it, right? So, I mean, I guess part of me gets it with some of these guys that know they're going to go to the NFL. You don't want to take a risk on one game to get injured and cost yourself money and draft status. But it's the Rose Bowl. You only get one crack at it. And again, you're abandoning your brothers on the team. And I do have a problem with that. And I'm always going to have a problem with that. We got another edge rusher again out of Clemson, Miles Murphy, 6'5", 275 pounds. Murphy attended Hillgrove High School in Georgia, the same school that produced NFL players like Bradley Chubb, Kenyon Drake, and Evan Ingram. The top 5 national prospect burst onto the scene in his first year in Death Valley, earning freshman All-American notice with a team-high 12 tackles for loss, with 4 sacks among 41 total stops in 12 games, 6 of those being starts. Murphy again led the Tigers with 14 tackles for loss and 7 sacks in 2021, 38 total tackles, 2 pass defense, 2 forced fumbles in 13 games, 10 as a starter, to garner second-team All-ACC accolades. He earned first-team honors in 2022 by tying for the team lead with 6.5 sacks, along with 40 total tackles, 11 for loss, and 2 passes defense in 13 games with 11 starts. Miles' father, Willard Murphy, played football at Chattanooga. Again, the defense out of the ACC, but kid's got a hell of a freaking stat line there, that's for sure. Looks like he does his job coming around the edge. You know, if you've got Sweat there and you've got Reddick there, do you need to spend the number 1, our number 10 pick at an edge rush position? It's important, don't get me wrong. But do you need to spend that high of a pick if you have those other 2 guys there, and as well as if Brandon Grant comes back too? Finally, and this is a good story. And this one popped up in a lot of this guy popped up in, I think, more mock drafts than any other name that I saw. Devin Witherspoon, corner out of Illinois, 6 foot 180. So, you know, a lot of your corners are 5'10". So 6 foot's a decent size. 180 is a little lanky, but listen to it. 2018 Pensacola Defensive Player of the Year, intercepting 5 passes as a senior. Signed with Illinois out of Pine Forest High School. He started 3 of 3. Now, he signs and was a 0-star recruit. Okay? And you're going to now. So, again, goes to Illinois, Big Ten school, but not your Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, not that sort of thing. Illinois, kind of that lower tier of the Big Ten. As a 0-star recruit. Started 3 of 13 games played in his freshman year, breaking up 2 passes and leading the Illini with 13 special teams tackles among his 33 total stops. Witherspoon started 7 games in 2020, tallying 33 tackles, 2 interceptions, and 3 fumble recoveries. In 10 games in 2021, when he recorded 52 tackles, 8 for a loss, and topped his team with 9 passes defensed. He became one of the top defenders on the nation's top scoring defense in 2022, receiving first-team Associated Press All-American honors and being named Big Ten Defensive Back of the Year after recording 17 passes defensed, 3 interceptions, and 41 tackles, 2.5 being for a loss in 12 games. He was a Jim Thorpe Award finalist, but again, another one that opted out of the bowl game. I mean, listen to that. A 0-star recruit ends up being a Jim Thorpe Award finalist, AP All-American honors, and named the Big Ten Defensive Back of the Year in his final season there. So what that tells me, we're gonna opted out of the bowl game again. You guys know that annoys the piss out of me, but what that whole description there tells me is this is a kid who works hard. This is a kid who is driven to get better and has succeeded in getting better. That's what you want out of a prospect. That's what you want in the draft. You don't want the kid who comes in thinking everything's got to get handed to him, right? You want the kid who comes in, he's ready to learn, right? A guy who's worked tirelessly like this to get better, that carried that chip on his shoulder despite having that, 2018 Pensacola Defensive Player of the Year, picking off 7 passes in his senior season at high school, ends up being a 0-star recruit. You think that didn't piss him off? That's called a chip on the shoulder. And that's what drives work ethic with a lot of these guys. So we just wanted to run through a bunch of those there. Give you guys some ideas on what some of the mock drafts are saying and where the birds might grow if we don't trade that pick and trade down and get more picks. I would prefer to draft a player at that spot, an impact player at that spot. And, our second pick in the first round would be number 30. And you trade out on that one and try to get a couple of mid-round choices. Again, if we get to Saturday and Keandre Miller's still on the board and we're still in need of a running back, and it gets to be that, and we've been able to acquire, a late third or an early 4th round pick, that's the spot where I'd look to see that Keandre Miller. And maybe we'll take him at that spot. We'll see. I've got somebody trying to join in here. Unfortunately, dear, we're about to wrap it up. I'm on here for an hour and 2 minutes now. I was going to talk some baseball here. I think we'll save that for another week. Do want to hop back over to the room here for just a minute. We talked Fournette. David Conant, maybe one day a coach will get longer than 3 weeks to fix a bad organization. That's fair. Yeah, all Pac-12 ain't what it used to be. Agreed, Russ. I think you should draft Stetson Bennett at number 10. No, Dave, we're not going to draft Stetson Bennett. David Conant, one more time. A former head coach I know said he always recruited 2- and 3-star recruits because they could be taught and developed a ton of NFL. Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. I'm not sure who this is. So give me 1 second here. David Califoot would like to say the Yankees suck. It just wouldn't be a week, Dave, without you telling me that. Keep in mind that kind of conversation is going to come up here as we move into baseball season. All right, folks, that's going to wrap it up for me tonight. I hope I've entertained you for the last hour. Hope I've given you at least a little bit of information based on where we might go in the draft. And as always, it's usually a good time. Oh, look, aren't you a pleasant person? Yeah, you're going to have to go. She's got some really nasty things to say here. Lovely. Make sure I take that up with Sam and the gang after the show. Anyways, folks, this has been the Unhappy Gilmore Show, powered by Green Legion Radio and part of the Green Legion Radio family. Again, I hope we've entertained you for the last hour and given you some things to think about as we head towards next week. Next week looks like we will be back in our nest at the Back Porch Saloon with our guest, who will need no introduction, Mr. Michael Solon, my partner in crime with the Midwest Eagles Nest, and I'm sure we'll talk some more events as far as that goes. Until then, everybody, y'all have a great week. Stay safe out there. And as always, go Birds! All right, everybody. Take care. We love you.